What's going on, Cover Killer Nation? It's a wonderful, wonderful day for metal, as usual. And it should only get better. Why? Because I'm trying to procure some Opeth tickets. Because, you know, missing Opeth and Catatonia twice due to monetary conflicts was unfortunate. But missing them with Mastodon and Ghost whenever I may have the capability in order to see them would be downright inexcusable. So yeah, it's time for me to get on that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the new Wretched album, which is entitled Son of Perdition, which was released last Tuesday. And if you guys remember, I did a review of Wretched's second album a little bit earlier last year entitled Beyond the Gate. And it was one that I got whenever I had also gotten a couple of other albums. And I really had enjoyed that record, so I was looking forward to Son of Perdition whenever I discovered that it was going to be released. And of course, one of the biggest release days thus far here in 2012. It was being released alongside names such as Overkill, Emma Sugar, and Mars Volta, and OSI. Those are just to name a few. There were more, including Naglfar and Borknagar. Whenever I listened to this album, a couple different things really kind of happened to me. A couple of things kind of hit me at first, and that's the fact, firstly, that the vocal dynamics on this record seem to, I don't know if it's just something that I missed on the last record, or if it was something that I was a little bit more accepting toward because of the way in which the music kind of accurately balanced it out. However, the vocal balance on this album is a little bit different and just sounds a little bit worse. I won't lie. There's a nice little thrash vocal, like a death thrash vocal dynamic to it, and then there is a second vocal pattern on this record that sounds like it basically just sounds like he inserted microphone into mouth and went all the way back to his tonsils and just decided to record the sounds of whatever noises were made there. It's kind of a mess, and it's something that does kind of bring down the overall value to this record. And the first half of this record definitely suffers because of this fact, because it's just, not only is this something that becomes mildly irritating, but the music that's around it is kind of, I don't want to say bland, but it's kind of par for the course. It's very average. It's kind of what you would expect from this genre of music. There's not really too much in the way of new ground being broken here, not that you would really expect with the influx and boom of this style of music for there to really be a lot of room for that to really occur. The funny thing is that whenever you do your research with this band on sites such as Metal Storm and the like, one of the bands that comes up as a related act is Opeth. And it's all irony, I know. And the one thing that you might be thinking to yourself is, well, where is that influence on this record? Where is the Opethian influence? Is there any at all? And actually, the fact is that there is. There's a three-part song that is on the latter stages of this record. In fact, right near the middle, but actually, part 1 starts right around the middle of the record, and part 3 actually leads you toward the conclusion of the record that is extremely Opethian in construction, and that's something that makes that reference all the more potent and viable. However, one thing that kind of makes this a little bit bold, a little bit ambitious, a little bit different, is that there's no vocals. For 3 straight tracks, you are treated to 3 straight tracks of instrumentals, and that's the Stellar Sunset of Evolution. There are 3 parts to it, and it's a very interesting song, or a 3-song dynamic, a trilogy, so to speak, and the fact that it's instrumental actually does not really denigrate this song whatsoever. In fact, if anything, it kind of gives this song a lot of character. It stands individually. It's a moment on this album that I really find to be one of the better moments that it's been able to treat me to. And that's something that, it's kind of unique. It's kind of weird. It's kind of quirky, and I kind of like it. It's almost like they took a cue from Animals as Leaders and opted to go, all instrumental for multiple tracks at once, in consecutive order. And it works really, really well, because the vocal dynamic is just, at some points, just almost rendered unlistenable. Now, how does this kind of fare with the overall value of the record? And I'll tell you, this is a record that was kind of a struggle at times to get through. This is one where, once again, as I said, whenever this whole genre, this kind of deathcore with thrashy influence, a death metal influence, and things like that kind of got started, there was kind of there was a lot of hype that surrounded it, but at the same time there was a whole world out there to really explore. And now we're getting to the point where it's been a number of years since this has really taken off, and there have been so many bands, so many acts that have come along, whether they be good or they be bad, that has really just made these waters extremely populated. There's a lot of things here. There's already a lot of ideas that are very, heard, very well known to those of us who listen to metal on a religious basis. It's something where you're going to listen to this album and be more prone to want to pop back in Beyond the Gate, because for some strange reason that album just resonates with you a whole hell of a lot more than this one or their first album did. And it just seems like they had real lightning in a bottle with Beyond the Gate. This album, I think, is going to kind of go down as a disappointment follow-up to Beyond the Gate. It's going to be an album where they did try to do some things that were a little bit out of the ordinary, and to be perfectly blunt, those are the ideas that perhaps work the best, as opposed to the matters of their own convention, that which they are kind of used to, the status quo, so to speak. So, what I would actually like to hear is a full experimental record by this group, where they really just take the ideas, the building blocks that we're seeing on the the trilogy song in the middle part of this record, apply some differences to the vocal patterns, maybe even try some cleans. Typically I'm not the type of person to really, reinforce the idea of trying to do cleans, because All That Remains did that, and let me tell you something, man, did that turn them into a whiny bunch of bullshit. But this is a band that I think could really use a little bit of that little harmony sort of injected in. Because I think it would have helped this album a little bit out, at least on a vocal department, on a vocal scale. I think they need to tread some new ground musically. But overall, if this is your style of music, if this is your slab of metal that really is kind of your calling card, this is an album that you will enjoy. For those of us who've been listening to this stuff religiously for decades, it just sounds a little aged. And that's the best way to put it. It sounds a little bit aged, and thusly, it just doesn't sound as fresh, it doesn't sound as dynamic, and it doesn't have that same new car smell to it. C'est la vie, though. Thank you, guys. Next time, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but Music Madness is still going on, so definitely vote it up for that. Cover Killer Nation, I will leave you guys today by saying that Wretched is, Son of Perdition is out now. You can pick it up right now, and I give the album a 7 out of 10, so it's definitely at least worth checking out.